Okay, I'm excited to introduce Hilderbrand Pelzer III, who will be interviewed by Faith Borkowsky tonight. And this is Unlocking Potential, Organizing a School in a Prison, the final week of our presentation series where we talk about outcomes and solutions. Here's an introduction to Hilderbrand Pelzer III. Currently an elementary school principal in Philadelphia, Hilderbrand Pelzer III has 3 decades of experience in the urban educational field, having served in a wide-ranging capacities as an assistant regional superintendent, a high school principal, an assistant principal, and a teacher. Pelzer is highly familiar with the interconnected pathways of educational problems and solutions from the classroom to the district level. The author of Unlocking Potential, Organizing a School Inside a Prison, Pelzer has earned a national reputation for his achievements in expanding opportunities for students in highly challenging schools and educational environments. His enthusiasm for student achievement represents a career-long commitment that began as a first-year teacher at the Ben Salem Youth Development Center, a state facility serving incarcerated male juveniles. Hilderbrand Pelzer III will be interviewed by Faith Borkowsky. Faith Borkowsky is the founder of High Five Literacy and Academic Coaching, with over 30 years as a classroom teacher, reading and learning specialist, regional literacy coach, administrator, and tutor. Ms. Borkowsky is Orton Gillingham trained and a Wilson certified dyslexia practitioner. Ms. Borkowsky is the author of the award-winning book, Failing Students or Failing Schools, A Parent's Guide to Reading Instruction and Intervention, and Reading Intervention, Behind School Walls, Why Your Child Continues to Struggle, and the author of a series of graphic plays entitled, If Only I Would Have Known, What I Wish My Pediatrician, Preschool Teacher, and Librarian Told Me About Language Literacy and Dyslexia. She is also a board member of Teach My Kid to Read, a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to support and empower students, teachers, and parents through education so all kids, including those with dyslexia, learn to read, an organization close to my heart. So I'm gonna leave the room for a bit and leave it to Faith and Hilderbrand.
Thank you. Hi, Hilderbrand, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? It's good to see you.
You too. You too. I am so excited. I have your book by me, and I have to tell you, I went through it very carefully, and there was so much there that I want to try to get to the most important points. But at the end, if I don't hit something that you would like to talk about, you know, definitely at the end, you'll fill us in with whatever it is that you think is important for people to know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So interestingly enough, when I thought about the audience, a Facebook audience, I was thinking to myself, they might think that, well, this topic doesn't pertain to me. You know, I don't see my kid going to prison. What possibly could I learn from this experience that you had, of course? They might not feel connected to it. So I wanted to assure people that this conversation definitely could be something that pertains to education as a whole. Certainly for parents of children with dyslexia or any other types of reading difficulties. So the first point I want to ask you about is teacher commitment. And that was something that was on one of the pages in your book, and this was very interesting to me. You said here that the key is the desire to deliver instruction to other people's children with the same veracity, intensity, and desire for success that one would offer one's own children. And I really would love you to talk about that statement, because I feel that that is a missing piece.
Yes.
So go ahead. Why don't you tell us what you think?
So the elephant in the room, you have to like kids. You have to like kids. And that means kids from every background, every challenge, circumstances and situations. They come to schools in many different packages. And the goal is to see them through successfully. When we talk about the basics, learning how to read, write, do math, be good people, navigate friendships, and all of those kind of things. And so what I meant by that is, in wanting to help children, you want to be in the right frame of mind yourself as a teacher, that you truly want to see that child be successful. And so when you see early warning signs, children struggling, you just don't pass it off as if it's someone else's problems. You know, the parents didn't do this, or they come from that background and that's why that's like that and it's going to be like that. I'm only here to get a paycheck. All of those kind of things come into play, and we hear those kind of things in the educational settings, not from everyone, not in every school, not in every classroom, but we hear it. That's the elephant in the room. And so no matter how children come to us, our goal is to see them through successfully. And so in my experiences, particularly when I wrote the book and prior to me even being in a position to write the book, I saw some children that came from some devastating backgrounds where even I would say to myself, wow, I don't even know what I would be able to do if I came through that situation, right? I would say to myself, literally, you know, my parents didn't raise me like that. You know, I would say, these are things that I would say. And so I know colleagues said them and other people say them. And as I've evolved into administration, we continue to say that. And that is the divide. That is the elephant in the room. That widens the gap. And so no matter where they come from, how they come to you, love them, like them, and help them.
Wow. I think that really struck a chord with me, because I feel the same as you. I think that, like you said, it's not everyone, but there are definitely some teachers who don't look at kids as if, you know, they're my kids. And I think that, you know, you have to feel that in order to help them, because they feel that. They pick up on your feelings easily. Absolutely. They know if you care.
Absolutely.
And that brings me to a very interesting point in your book, and I just love this. You said that when you went and applied to the correctional facility, when you were going for a job there,
yes,
it was not a normal interview. Could you tell everyone who interviewed you?
Yeah, students in blue jumpsuits, you know, light blue shirts and dark blue pants, and brown boots, right? They were juveniles who were incarcerated, and they interviewed me in the principal's office around a boardroom style table. In executive chairs, right? So I'm not being dramatic. This is real. And they asked me questions about things that had nothing to do with teaching, but they asked me things about how I was raised, did I have parents, what neighborhood I was from, things about family, friends, things I liked, didn't like, all kinds of stuff. But it had nothing to do with the position I had applied for, which was physical education teacher position.
Right. So why do you think that those were the questions they chose?
Well, I later learned that they were gleaning my ability to do two things: navigate their community, which was the incarcerated community, and not be afraid of it, right? And two, the principal modeled for them the type of teachers that would be able to help them. And so obviously they were prepared. And so these were, quote, student leaders, so to speak, who would help staff the school with adults who were caring, kind, and had a passion for building relationships.
I would love to see kids on the hiring committee in every situation. I just think that story was great. Honestly, I just love that.
Yeah. And it helped. It helped. It helped because throughout my 5 years at that facility, I seen that process occur over and over with others, right? But it helped me navigate that facility. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that the commitment was what they were looking for.
Absolutely.
Right. Are you going to leave them after, you get a better offer?
Yeah.
But you stayed with them for 5 years.
Absolutely.
So I think that must have come through.
It did. And let me just add one other thing, Faith. They were missing things too in their life. So some of those questions were questions about things that they envied, wanted to have. Oh, you have two parents? Okay. You went to college? You right. So these were things that were missing in their lives. And so years later, not too far past that interview, but in time, I would have conversations with individuals who interviewed me, and these type of conversations would come back around, where I would talk about college, or I would talk about how I was raised, or I would talk about, my relationship with my brother, or my relationship with friends, and those type of things. Yeah. And they wanted to hear that.
That's right, because they want normalcy.
Yes. Yes.
And a stable person.
A stable person. And what they saw also that they wanted was structure.
Right. Exactly.
Structure.
And I think that sometimes the word structure has a bad rap, but kids need that. All kids need structure. Absolutely. Which leads me to establishing relationships. I think you had mentioned here, public schools should establish relationships and collaborations with various public and private partners who are working to have positive, significant impact on student development and teaching and learning. So tell us how you build relationships, because clearly I knew I would feel so comfortable talking to you. I just knew it. I sensed it when I saw you doing a TED Talk, and I just knew that I needed to talk to you. It was just one of those things that I felt a pull to wanting to meet you and wanting to talk to you. And I'm just interested in how you do establish relationships.
Right. So when I wrote that, and when I think about how I've modeled that, I look for organizations, individuals, parents, whomever, who want to see the schools. Goes back to what we talked about, the first question, commitment. You want to see children be successful. So I'm always looking for partnerships where you truly want to see the students be successful. And so you're not necessarily using the school for your benefit, but you're using the school, literally using the school to make it better. That you also buy into the vision and the mission of the school. And that means even if the school has some bad days and has some bad performances, that you're in it with them. You're in it with them seeing it through. I love the parents who see the good and the bad of the school. And I shouldn't use that word, but I'm just going to put it there, right? There are things that are challenging. There are things that are successful. And when it's challenging, some people want to leave you alone. But those parents that are right there, and because when they're right there, they see the workings of how you're trying to problem solve and create action steps and implement, and they want to know what they can do. And so that goes for organizations, businesses, community development groups, whatever the case may be, fraternities and sororities, anyone who wants to partner with schools. You really want to establish the relationship that you're in it to win it.
Yes.
No matter which trajectory it goes. And so I'm looking for those relationships. And I usually tell folks when they want to work with schools, usually folks will go, in my experience, to say the school district or to the board or wherever. And I always tell folks, you should always go talk to the principal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, go talk to the principal, because the principal is right there on the ground and can really kind of help navigate things for you and kind of give you what really is the need and the help. And so those are the type of relationships I'm talking about, where you're going to stay there because you want to see the kids grow and get better, and that school grow and get better, even when things are not going right.
Well, first of all, you're approachable. So, of course, you would want people to come to you because that's just who you are. I'm not sure everyone would feel that way. I mean, I've been in schools where there was a chain of command, and principals would want you to go to other people before you reach the principal's office. So I think that is something, as a takeaway, the type of person you are, who is approachable. And I love what you said, that you're in it, right? You're not just at the helm. You are in the school. You are part of the success. There are going to be some moments that are challenging, but you're in it. And I think what you said about parents, partnering with parents, is crucial. I think that parents do want to learn. They do want to know how to help. They need somebody who's going to show them and give them some explicit instruction, right? In some regard, right? We talk about that for kids, but parents are looking for that too.
Absolutely.
And, but many parents don't feel like they're partners
Right.
in many schools.
Yeah.
And so I think when I asked you about how do you establish that, how do you make parents feel that they can be a part of this?
Right. So the whole notion of parent engagement, parent involvement, family involvement, communicating with families is an ongoing thing. And to make it successful, you have to teach and model it to your teachers, because you need their help with engagement, because every teacher has so many students and access to so many parents, right? And so it begins when you enroll folks into your school, how you establish relationships. But once they're in your school and folks go from grade to grade to grade, the type of, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 things. The type of engagement that I would look for is communicating with my teachers, how that is going. That helps a lot, right? Because I learn a lot about relationships through those opportunities. 2, you just mentioned about teaching them how to teach their children. Those are activities that has to happen. You have to, if the school has certain goals and certain curriculum and certain priorities, you have to bring the parents in and teach them those goals and priorities and strategies so that they can help you achieve them at the house. And then a lot of workshops around different issues. So when issues come up, keeping them engaged, keeping them informed, keeping them in the know, having a family resource center is one thing we have at our school advisory council, that involves them in budgeting, facility issues, right? So making the community welcoming for all of them, for everybody who wants to be a part of it. Now, you may not get all the parents, you may not, but the effort has to be continuously, always happening. And what I'm finding with remote learning, while remote learning is challenging, you can get more parents because now it's right online.
Right.
I'm finding that we're getting more parents because they don't have to disrupt, say, I got to come at night or I got to come in the daytime and that type of thing. It's right there online. I can just go on my phone. I can go on my YouTube. My laptop, or I could be in my car and get on, that type of thing. So it's accessible.
So moving on to children who might not be succeeding, all right. You had mentioned in the book, research suggests students who do not read by 4th grade have only a 12% probability of ever learning to read. So I'm sure that teachers and administrators would say, well, we did offer academic intervention to those children before 4th grade. So then who's to blame?
We are.
Okay, I have to put that out there, right?
We are.
Yeah, go ahead.
We are to blame because you have to be able to demonstrate the evidence of what you did, the evidence of what you did to help. And so that begins with, what you see, the early warning signs. It's almost like going to the doctor. You feel something wrong, you go to the doctor checks you out, then the doctor prescribes medicine, take the medicine, that type of thing. You see the early warning signs, you assess, you see something's wrong, you give good quality instruction and intervention, strategies, those type of things, and you monitor that. If it's working, good. If it's not, you got to come back to the table again. And so if children are not being successful year after year, then something is broken in that process. Something is broken in that process. So we can't put the blame on others, right? We can ask others to help us, right? That goes back to how we help parents understand what we need them to do at home, right? In my community, we have a lot of after school and before school programs. So if they have a lot of our kids in their programs, we talk to them about what we need them to do in their programs when they have our kids. So everybody has to be involved in that. But at the end of the day, the school is the #1 place where this work should be happening. So we have to take some of that blame.
Right. Now, if you think about it, those statistics are just awful, right? If you think about it, the probability of a child reading after 4th grade is slim. So when you mention interventions and assessments and collecting data, I would imagine that schools believe that they do this, Hilderbrand. I would think that they would say, well, we do that. We are assessing. We are giving quality instruction. I don't think anyone who is in a school really believes that he or she isn't doing everything possible. So I guess my question then is, how do we get teachers, administrators to take ownership of this and say, well, if you are doing the assessing and you think you have quality instruction going on, why is this same child or these same children failing year after year?
Right.
You know, I always say, you know, intervention really is nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So you can't call it intervention if nothing changes, right? That's not intervention anymore.
Right.
So how do we get schools to look at this and see that maybe nothing has changed and that that's not true intervention?
Right. So let me answer it this way. It's the instruction. The instruction is either, you use the word quality, right? Quality means quality. Quality means across every classroom is quality. That may not be the case. Schools, for the most part, may well be analyzing data and looking at data and then saying, this is what's wrong and this is what we have to fix. But then you got to fix it. The fix is the instruction. It's what you're doing to fix it, the intervention, the instruction. And if that's not quality, there's your problem. And that's what I see. Not just, you know, over the years or in my personal experiences, but all throughout the country. It's about, is the classroom instruction what it should be? Mm-hmm. The data is there. The data is telling us this kid can't read. It's telling us that. And it's saying this kid can't recognize words, right? I had a conversation with some teachers the other day. It was a great conversation. It was about Ames Web assessment and oral reading fluency. And there were some words when we looked at the assessment, right? Analyzing data, right? Looking at the assessment, here's some words, drilling it all the way down. Okay. All right. I got what the kids scored and what the target should be. I got that. That's easy. But what are we going to do to move them to that? Now it's silent. Like, wait a minute. Oh, it's not silent. What happened when the kid got to that word? Oh, he just skipped it. Okay, that says something to us, you know. Or what did the kid do when he got, like, so that's the anecdotal notes, right? So it's like, okay, now that we drill down to what possibly it is that caused this kid to get this score on this oral reading fluency, what are we going to do about it? Okay, now we know we got to work on word recognition and things like that. But how do you do that? Mm-hmm. Right? Now the teacher has to do that. And so if teachers aren't equipped with how to do that, you could look at all the data you want to look at. And so it comes back to instruction. And then when we talk about intervention, every strategy we utilize could be interventions, right? But not just putting a kid on a program, right? I'm just going to put the kid on a program and that's the intervention. Well, even if you do that, there are certain reports and data tools you got to glean from that to know when to make adjustments, right? So the instruction is what has to be fixed, in my opinion.
Well, I think you know where I stand. That's pretty much what I'm about. It boils down to instruction, but it also boils down to assessment. I think if you're using an assessment that guides teachers into level books, mm-hmm. and doesn't tell you, like you mentioned, you know, oral reading fluency. Well, if you drill down from oral reading fluency and you look at nonsense word fluency, and then you look at phoneme segmentation, if you keep drilling down, you're going to see gaps. But if you use an assessment that doesn't point to any of those skills, well, then you can't possibly come up with the right plan.
Agree with you 100%. It's also assessment. Agree with you 100%. The wrong assessment will give you the wrong information.
Right. So, and that seems to be a pattern that goes on everywhere.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. Okay, so here's something else that I thought was very interesting. At one point, you had mentioned that you got a position working with homeless women.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and the statement is, indeed, it, meaning the company helping homeless women, was in the business of capitalizing on the booming economy surrounding the struggles of families and homelessness. The booming economy around failure, and people's struggles. Yeah,
that's you know, I still struggle with that experience. I see it today. You know, there's an economy around poverty. There's an economy at that point in that experience around homelessness. You know, there's an economy around, you know, failing school.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, schools struggle, but I always, when I look at what resources are coming, and this is why I appreciate you and others that I've met, you know, this year so much, is you come with academic help. There are a lot of resources that's for behavior help, you know, discipline help, you know, this or that, you know. So we start focusing on behavior plans and this and that, right? And I'm saying, hey, the kid just can't read. We just got to help him learn how to read. And I think he or she'll be fine. And so, but it's follow the money trail. That's where it is, you know? And when I talk about the school to prison pipeline, folks, or when they think about my book, people sometimes, not everyone, thinks about crime. You know, I always tell people, listen, I don't talk about crime. You know, the book is not about crime, you know, or they ask me to come speak and they want me to speak about, you know, violence prevention or something like that. I don't really have a lot of, my solution would be education. My solution would be teach and learn. So if that's what you want to hear, I'll come speak. But, you know, follow the money.
Always.
Always. And that was what that was about.
Yeah. And, you know, this comes up a lot in discussions about literacy, follow the money.
Yeah.
And that's why I also have a passion for this. Yeah. Because this has been going on for years and years, and it doesn't matter if it's dyslexia, it doesn't matter if it's homelessness, it doesn't matter what the situation is. There are people who use a situation to their advantage, and it's distressing to see. So I thought that was really interesting, and so that brings me to balanced literacy. Wouldn't you say that there are people who know that some of these strategies don't work? Clearly the science is there. We know the science shows us that explicit systematic instruction in reading is the way to go. Yet universities are still telling teachers that these strategies work. We have publishing companies who still produce materials based around balanced literacy. We have a whole industry that we know these strategies don't help kids.
Right.
It's quite sad. All right, so moving on. So I'm going to also bring up a quote that you said here. And this was about students in the juvenile justice system. And you said, I saw the hundreds of juvenile offenders struggling with the learning process, mostly Black males. They were unable to read, write, or perform tasks at even a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that Black males are hit the hardest?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I really am. You know, I work in this business now for 30 years, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Now, I have some thoughts, and some thoughts are fear of Black boys.
So as like a white teacher going in, that there is fear of Black boys. Okay.
Fear, to the point that they will quit.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers will quit. Cultural, not having the knowledge of the culture, right? Mm-hmm. Of where African Americans made, you know, their living situations, where they come from, their neighborhoods. You know, we just come into the neighborhoods to go to work and then we leave, you know, so not, you know, caring about learning about that. Mm-hmm. The character of Black boys, you know, we always say boys and girls are different. So some of the things that Black boys do, you know, to me may be like, you know, not something big, you know, but something like, you know, needs to be addressed, but where somebody else will take it out of character and like, what, you know? So it's a lot of different things. I still haven't pinned it down. I know there are a lot of studies out there, whatever, but that's what they are, studies. But what I see every day, I'm trying to figure out, why is it that Black children, Black boys in particular, still are behind in everything? The highest in special ed, the highest going to jail, the highest that can't read, the highest that gets suspended. You know, why is that when it's so many of them that make up schools?
Yeah.
I haven't figured that out yet, you know.
It's
that challenges me, and I struggle with that, because that's a great question, and that's why I'm so glad you took some of these from the book. You know, as a father, I have one child. She's an adult daughter. She's an adult woman now, and so boys in school, I always considered them my sons. I call them my sons. Even if they were incarcerated, high school, elementary school, they're my sons. So I always took a liking to making certain that Black boys always moved in the right direction. But everyone doesn't look to see to help them see them move in the right direction. Mm-hmm. You know, it's quick to arrest them. You know, and then as a principal, you're trying to model, like, is that how we? No, I think we can handle this differently. No, I want them arrested. Why come you didn't suspend them? I want to, you know, when I may be able to reach them, and then somebody else can't be able to reach them, right? Mm-hmm. So I struggle with that one.
So I find this fascinating because, you know, my feeling as a white woman, having taught in multicultural schools, going in to schools where I was a regional coach, being really one of the few white people there to do training, and having to build relationships. Mm-hmm. And no, I didn't go away, and I wasn't afraid. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you these questions because I'm not afraid. I think the way we learn about people is by asking questions and not being afraid. Yeah. So, my thought about this is, is it that society just has low expectations of Black children, and therefore perhaps when they're in school, like I said, kids could pick up on feelings about people caring enough by building relationships? Do you think maybe that they feel that people don't care, and that is a missing ingredient?
Well, the kids feel that, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, the kids.
Yes. But the low expectation comes as a result of fearing them, not wanting to establish relationships with them, not wanting to know about their community or their family. As a result of those type of scenarios, I have low expectations for you because I really don't care. If I had relationships with you, if I, wanted to know more about you, if I really care, I'm going to have high expectations for you because I'm establishing that relationship. And so the low expectations, is as a result of these things. And those things are, you can name any of them. I mean, if you ask that question to a wide audience, you get a whole lot of different answers. But as a result of those answers, low expectations come. It comes with, when you asked about the reading, why are Black males always behind, or if you have Black males in your classroom and you see them struggling, will you really help them? Do you really care? Or do you just, let push them to special ed or something like that? Or if they're older kids, if they drop out, so what type of thing? The low expectations comes because we don't have care. We don't have relationships. We don't have a concern about their culture and those type of things. That's what I see. And I see it, I've seen it in correctional settings, alternative ed settings, high school settings, elementary settings, as a district leader going to different school settings. So these are settings that, some people in their careers probably, see one setting, elementary setting, high school setting, college setting. I've seen a whole lot of different settings, and that's the consistency.
Yeah, me too. Me too. As a coach, I would go into different school districts. So I think sometimes when you're in one building your whole career, and especially if you're in the same grade, in the same classroom, you get tunnel vision.
Exactly.
And, it's kind of like if you teach kindergarten or first grade. I taught first grade, but there are some people who just consistently teach, the younger kids.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that when kids get older, that maybe what was done in the younger grades wasn't exactly helpful, but they don't see that. They think at the moment that whatever they're doing is truly, and I do believe they feel this way, it's truly helpful, it's good, it's fine, we're doing the right thing. Yeah. But you're not seeing those kids as they get older.
That's right. That's right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm agreeing. That's it. Having the opportunity to be in different settings, you're exactly right. It has helped me. I think that's what helps me, but not people who educators who don't have those experiences or stay in one school, stay in one grade level, stay in one grade band space. Right. You don't see the evolution of the child.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So this also brings me to a question about reading and self-worth. This, I have to tell you, when you wrote this is on page 44 you talked about a student sentenced to death.
Oh, yeah.
And you wrote, he was just 19 years old,
Yeah.
and according to the examiners, he had requested an opportunity to take the GED as a way to achieve something in his life and to give his family some way to be proud of him.
Yeah.
I read that and I'm like, you know, if that isn't the human component right there,
Yeah.
I don't care, you know, black, white, brown, purple, we all have a desire to feel important, don't we? We all want to make somebody proud of us and feel important. And this was his dying wish. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, you know, I still tear up literally when I talk about that story. I never met him. I never met him. My communication with him was through correctional officers and his social workers. So, and so I did get word to him. But when the social worker peeped into my office one day and she just said, thank you, Principal Pelzer. I said, oh, not a problem. People always say that, like, not a problem. But I saw her again and she said, I really, really appreciate, you know, your help. Like, what is she talking about? You know? And so I asked her, what did I do? You know, and she was telling me about her client. And I said, okay, got his GED. I said, okay, but it still stuck with me. Like, okay, but a lot of, in this setting, he's an adult inmate because anybody over 18 and older, you're adult. But even though he was 19, he 18 went to 19. So I went back to my GED examiners because even though I was the chief examiner, I didn't administer the GED exams. I had two individuals who did that. Mm-hmm. And so I got the guy's name and I asked them, you know, tell me about this guy. What's going on with him? Is his case in the, like, is he a case that everybody knows about and I don't know about? Is he in the news? You know, what is the situation? And later I found out that he was being sentenced to death. And I was like, wow. And so that taught me the power of education. The fact that no matter what our circumstance is, no matter how bad things can get, and it can't get any worse than that, education was still important to him. Yeah. And it was important to him to pass it, and it was important to him to make his family proud, just like any other 12th grader would want families to come to the graduation. Right? And that's how I saw it, right? So you see it in the normalcy, it's family coming to the graduation. In the correctional setting, it's like I can get this to my parents and they know. I can send my certificate to my parents and they can have it hanging in their home. And so I had the correctional officers, you know, go to the guy and just tell him, you're welcome. You know, you're welcome. And they told him, and he said, thank you. But I never met him. Yeah. It was deep.
That is deep. And, you know, all I could think of, you know, when I read that was, here's a kid who just was not taught, and then probably, you know, had no other choice but to get involved in other things that were not productive, clearly, not beneficial to society. But he still thought enough to want that to be his dying wish.
Yes.
And, you know, we have to think about all kids that way. We have these kids with dyslexia. Yeah. And they might act like, I hate school. Yeah. You know, I don't care about reading. I hate it. I don't want to do it. They're acting out because they're frustrated with the circumstances. Right. But they're still human. They still want to make their parents proud. Right. They still want to be thought of as important in society.
Now, Faith, you see how you just framed that? That's like, if you saw a kid, what you just described was you still know that they want to learn, and that acting out it shouldn't be feared.
Right.
See, someone else without your experience would be like, I don't want this kid around me.
Mm-hmm.
Get him out my class.
Mm-hmm.
You know, send them to the principal's office, the dean's office. See, that's it right there, because they do act out. They may communicate to us in a way that's like not normal.
Right. Right. Where girls might be withdrawn. Right. So you talk about the difference between, forget, black or white, but boys and girls.
Yes.
The boys usually, I mean, there are girls too, obviously, but more boys will act out when they can't read.
Yeah.
And then girls go inside. They get depressed. They have, this feeling of just inadequacy, you mentioned this 55-year-old man who was still hooked on phonics in the book.
Yes.
Now, someone else might look at that and say, well, you see, Hilderbrand phonics doesn't work. He's 55. When is he going to get off of hooked on phonics? Your thoughts? What do you say?
Phonics works. It's just that he didn't get it when he was in school, in grade school. And so I shared that story in not only my TED Talk, but a recent presentation I gave, because that particular inmate, adult male inmate, was still trying to learn how to read. And that's the storyline. He was still trying to learn how to read after decades. And so the message there is we have to get our kids from kindergarten to second to third grade reading. Even if they're not reading on grade level or above, they gotta be able to navigate it so that they can help themselves, we can help them, they know what direction they're going in. But just ignoring the early warning signs, not fixing our instructional models, you're not helping our teachers who struggle with teaching reading, that's what you're going to get. And he's just an example of you can see all the data and studies about literacy and criminal justice system. He was just an example.
Yes, but now how do you close the gap if the kids are getting books that are below their grade level? So in other words, in order to close the gap, learning has to be accelerated. But if we keep kids in books that are below grade level and they keep going up through the grades being below grade level, we never close the gap. So I think we have to know how to accelerate learning and give kids the right instruction early, often, giving them the right things. Unless they stay like that, there's no closing the gap.
Well, you said it, just like I said earlier, and you just said it again, the right instruction. That has to be fixed. So we have to help teachers, principals included, because I'm not perfect, right? I'm still learning. Like, what is the right instruction, right? Teachers want that knowledge. They want that knowledge. They don't want someone to tell them, this is the right instruction, X, Y, and Z. They want someone to model that for them. They want, to be able to practice that, that type of thing. They want that. So what is the right instruction is what we need in schools. Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure, though, that there are teachers you've encountered who maybe just don't want to change. I'm sure there are those teachers. There are those teachers.
what to say about that. They're those teachers,
Yeah.
and so sometimes with those teachers, you have those hard conversations with them. I mean, there are other tools in the toolkit that you might have to utilize with those teachers, but overall, what I see are teachers who want to learn how to do this art, this work called the art of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we focus on what the right instruction is, or what quality instruction is, and model that for them, have resources for them, the right trainings for them, I think the most teachers will appreciate it and excel.
So you mentioned here the mission statement. And I love that you said the mission statement is intentionally clear and concise. No complex educational jargon allowed. So I put that in bold letters for myself because I do believe that the whole, I call it, edubabble. Edubabble is by design so that there's no accountability. So if we keep talking in ways that no one really understands who's responsible for what, then there's no accountability.
Right.
Your thoughts?
I agree. So edubabble is having in your mission statement that students will be technologically savvy in the 21st century. And we're in the 21st century, 20 years into the 21st century, and we still have technology divide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
See, so that was in mission statements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's put that in our mission statement. That sounds great. But not doing anything. We're 20 years into the 21st century and we're still having issues with technology. And the COVID crisis just really let us know how far folks were still behind with technology. Teachers, students, parents, homes, communities, Wi-Fi's, you name it. And so when I talked about that in the book, the juvenile inmates at the Philadelphia prison system would always challenge me in a way that they did not believe that the things I was saying we were going to accomplish would happen. They just literally didn't believe it. There were some who were vocal about it. Like, you're not going to do that. Because they were so used to nothing happening, either staying on their cell blocks or coming over to the school area and just looking in dictionaries or just talking and doing nothing. And so when I was sharing this vision with them in my first few weeks of the school, they was like, nah, it's not going to happen. He's not going to do nothing, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I had to put it in plain talk to them that at the end of the day, you're going to get your high school diploma. You're going to get your high school diploma because you're going to earn some credits. These credits, come with going to some academic classes. Here are the academic classes that you got to take. We're going to, so you had to like unpack this for them so they could see it in little small parts. And then they started to buy in versus trying to come up with this great mission statement that meant nothing to them. And they would tell you that doesn't mean anything.
Right. I so agree. I wanted it to come from you, but that's exactly how I see it. Yeah. That, when we talk up here, nothing happens.
Nothing.
Plain English.
That's right.
Bring it down. That's how I write in my books. That's how you wrote this book, that everyone could understand and learn from. So I want to just wrap it up because this is fascinating. So what can we learn from looking at students in a correctional facility? And if I left anything out, please jump in.
Yeah. So you can learn a lot, but let me just use a through line about some of the things we talked about tonight, right? So when you opened up, you talked about what could, non-educators what would they care about? Well, kids getting in trouble, right? The death row inmate, kids in general. There were some smart kids in these settings. Some of them, many of them could read, right? They went to school, they fell out of love with school. They got with the wrong crowds. So as parents, always be concerned and caring about your children, where they are, what activities they're in, who they're hanging out with. Those are like simple things that my parents used to tell me. I think it still has value now because I saw some great kids whose their lives were turned upside down because of being with someone, mm-hmm. or being involved in some crime that was their first time, and their life is over, right? So that's one thing that everybody can learn if you're about parenting and raising children and those kind of things. But as educators, as teachers, this whole notion about the importance of reading, the importance of good instruction, the importance of having high expectations, the importance of wanting kids to learn how to read and navigate school, right? You could see it in inmates, in the juveniles, and in the adults in the Philadelphia prison system, that they were showing me the failures of public school. As a public school employee, they were showing me the failures of public school. And I used that information, not that they were just telling me, you could see it, right, in the work, that these, when I'm in a traditional setting, these are the things I need to be mindful of. As a school leader and district leaders, they show us that many district leaders, superintendents included, don't even have any idea about the children who come from their school districts who have gone down that path.
Yeah. No. I just have to say, I'm going to hold your book up again. Unlocking Potential. I looked at this the same way you just said. I want to work backwards. So look at these kids and then go back in time. And if you could unpack it, I'm going to use your words. Mm-hmm. If you unpack this, you see the failures that happened from kindergarten. Yes. This didn't happen overnight. This is years in the making of chipping away at someone until it got to a point where these kids made bad mistakes, right? Yeah. Yeah. I have a son and a daughter, but I remember also thinking just one mistake can happen. Your whole life can change, one mistake. Yeah. And I think the big factor here is that, staying involved and caring. Right. That's the bottom line. So I thank you so much for this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm glad my book was helpful and that you got so much from it. And this is probably one of the best interviews using my book that I've ever been a part of. And it means a lot to me. But I want you to also know that your books have helped me tremendously.
Oh, thank you.
Right? And I finished this other one too. Right? I read that one.
Oh.
This one I read, the pediatrician, the librarian. This one was fascinating.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I want this friendship to continue. I would love to do a presentation with you. Yes. Honestly, I just think that both of our experiences brought together would be fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith.
All right, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.